Hey folks, it's John with KGTropicals.com. In last week's video, we talked all about this tank right here, all of the problems that I've been having with this thing for months and months, and I told you it's time to start all over again. And I told you that in this week's video, we're going to take apart the FX6, thoroughly clean it out, get down into there in the motor, maintain the motor, do all of those things with it. Well, that was my full intention of what I was going to do this week. But then I went to one of my favorite fish stores and I saw this. So of course, once I saw this in the store, it kind of changed everything about my plan, and I figured, you know what, rather than mess around cleaning the old one out, let's just start brand new. Let's start with everything brand new. So I decided to pick one of these up. Let's be honest, there's never a bad time to pick up something new that you've never seen before. So I do want to say real quick that me choosing to go with this filter has nothing to do with blaming my problems on the old filter. That's absolutely not the case. I still fully intend on cleaning that out and maybe adding it to another tank, or who knows, maybe even starting another tank. So this video is going to be all about the brand new Fluval FX4. We're going to talk about some specs. I'm even going to show you the process that I went through to install this onto the tank. I did a couple of different angles. It was a whole lot of fun. So we'll get into that in a minute. But before we do that, let's talk about the filter itself. Let's go through some of the specs. Fluval, as you know, is known for manufacturing very high-end canister filters. You've probably heard of the 406, and I'm sure by now you've heard of the FX6. These are two huge canisters that can handle huge loads. But the thing is, the 406 is rated for tanks up to 100 gallons. The FX6 is rated for tanks up to 400 gallons. Now, the 406 at 100, the FX6 at 400, that's a huge gap. I always have people contacting me saying, John, I've got a 150 gallon tank. The 406 is not going to be enough, and I'm afraid that the FX6 is just going to be way too much overkill. What do I do? Well, this is where the FX4 steps in. The FX4 is rated for tanks up to 250 gallons. Now, something to think about here is I always recommend my African cichlid friends double their filtration. What that would mean is if you have a 125 gallon tank and you're keeping African cichlids in there, you're going to want to filter it as if it's a 250 gallon tank. Well, there you go. Now this monster processes 700 gallons of water per hour. As responsible fish keepers, we want to turn our tanks over about 4 times an hour, right? Well, with this being a 125 and that processing 700, that means we're going to turn this tank over about 5.5 times per hour. Absolutely more than we will ever need. And again, overkill, never a bad thing. Couple other things about this. Fluval introduced a long time ago, I think it was with the FX5, but it might have even been before then, the smart pump technology into these filters. Basically what it does is the filter monitors itself 24/7 to make sure that it's at peak performance, and every 12 hours it shuts itself down, purges out all of the air, and restarts everything. You know, if we restart your computer, you know that it kind of works a little faster. It kind of smooths out all of the bugs. Well, that's what this thing does completely on its own every 12 hours. It can be a little bit scary if you're sitting there and it happens because you're like, oh no, what's wrong with the filter? But in the end, you realize, oh yeah, it's just resetting itself. Very, very cool. I don't know of any other filters that do that. The last thing that we're going to talk about is within this bucket of a filter is a 5-stage filtration basket. If you're familiar with the FX series, it's got removable baskets, convenient little handles to pull them all out, and the room that you have in there to add media is absolutely ridiculous. One of the things that I like that they've done with the FX series, a new improvement that they have, is that they've put individual baskets within the media baskets or the media trays or whatever you want to call them. I like that because you can keep everything separate, keep everything nice and tidy in there. It comes with everything that you need to set it up, with the exception of any kind of chemical filtration that you want to use, like carbon or ammo chips or anything like that. You'll see when I put that in when we do the install. Another one that people like is Purigen. It doesn't come with any of those things. It does come with the biological ceramic rings. They're not even rings anymore. They're more like tubes, which is definitely another improvement that they've made to this. So comes with all of that, but if you want to add some chemical filtration of some type, you'll have to get that in addition to what already comes with the filter. So there you go. Now you know a little bit about this. Let's go ahead and install this onto the tank. Alright, so before installing the filter, I did something that I've wanted to do for a very long time, and that is spruce things up a bit by adding a shelf to put this filter onto. I used to have both Fluval filters sitting on the floor, and it wasn't easy to maintain them, and it looked really bad. So had some old aquarium stands laying around. I decided to cut up and make into this new little shelf here. I think it turned out nice. Put a nice coat of black paint on it so that it matches everything else, and there you go. It's going to be much easier to maintain them, to clean them out and all that. It's something I've wanted to do forever. Now the fun part, let's get this thing installed. First, we're going to hook up the plumbing for it, which is very simple to do. It comes with pipe clamps for attaching your hosing, and those quick connectors there make things very simple. They just snap into place. We're going to start out with the input. This is where the water is going to come from the tank and enter into the filter through that strainer. The hose comes in one large length, which you'll cut into 2 pieces. The biggest thing that I would recommend to anyone is when you measure out how much hosing you're going to need, add 8 to 10 inches, maybe even a foot to it, because if you cut this thing too short, I mean, your whole project is messed up. You only really have one shot at this thing. So once you have it cut to length, then you'll just stick the cut end into the end of the strainer tube. Very, very simple, and it's time to attach it to the rim connectors. I actually pulled this from the Fluval video because they did it really, really well to show how easy it is to connect this to the rim connectors. The rim connectors are very sturdy, and trust me, they hold this thing in place. They're actually very difficult to get off. If your tank is a rimless tank, there are suction cups on the back of those rim connectors that'll still hold it firmly in place, and it's certainly a lot easier to take off. I put mine in the perfect spot in this tank, which was right behind that huge piece of driftwood, just to kind of hide it from sight. I held the strainer up a few inches from the substrate because this is a sand substrate. I didn't want a bunch of sand going into that, but it's still enough to filter the bottom of the tank, so it's really the perfect spot. Now it's time to install the return. I'll put the pipe clamp on there. That is something that I will tighten up once everything's in place. One of the things that I've done with all of my Fluval filters is after I've cut the hose, I don't cut it again. I just use the leftover piece for the return, and this just gives you some flexibility. Again, if you cut this thing too short, you've only got one shot at it. You don't want to ruin the whole project and have to put a hold on it and order a new hose. Who wants to mess around with that? Just use the leftover piece for the return and you're good to go, and you can move it around. And now we'll tighten up those screws to make sure that the hoses are down onto there very nice and tight so they won't ever come off, because this thing's got some pretty good pressure behind it. So now let's prep the interior. The baskets, you can see it comes with a large coarse foam block. There is our individual basket, which we can separate the different media. I absolutely love that. You've got large, thick sponges around the exterior of it, and the way the water flows is it flows through those white sponges up to the top and then down the center through your coarse sponge, the polishing sponge that you saw there, and also all of the ceramic tubes and whatever else you want to add to it, like the cobalt ammo chips, which you see there. I'm just dumping some of them into a bag since we are going to be going through the cycle. I figured helping out a little bit with the ammonia control is never going to hurt anybody, and these bags came with the Fluval filter, so definitely handy to have, and you can put anything you want in there. After thoroughly rinsing the ceramic tubes and the ammo chips, it's time to put everything back in there. I just put the ammo chips and a few of the tubes down at the bottom, then we'll add the other layer, and I will put the rest of the ceramic tubes in there. I'm calling them tubes, I'm not sure what Fluval calls them, but I'll throw those in there, place the red basket on top of that with that coarse sponge on the top, and we're ready to go. Place it in the tank, couldn't be easier, and then I'm going to put about 2 gallons of water down into there just to help to get the whole thing primed. Put the lid on, and then away we go. These little handles here, they can be a little bit tricky. Your fingers can get awfully tired once you're putting these on, but the way I like to do it is kind of like putting a tire on a car. You do them across from each other and you just go all the way around until they're all tight. Yeah, your fingers and your wrists are going to be pretty tired once you're done with all of that, but once it's all attached there, open up the valves and away we go. The filter will start to prime itself. Plug it in, it's going to purge all the air out, and it's ready to roll. All right, so there you go. There is the installation of the new FX4. Folks, I am absolutely thrilled with this thing, but I wouldn't have expected any less. The Fluval filters, in my opinion, are just at another league from most other filters on the market. Yes, they do cost a little bit more money, but you know what? For the peace of mind that you get with these filters, it's absolutely worth it. I now have 4 FX series canister filters, and they're all going to be used in here at one point or another. I've got an older FX5, 2 6s, and 1 4. So yeah, they're going to be staples in this fish room at all times. Maybe I still will do a video of cleaning out the FX6 that was on this. If you want to see that, put it in the comment section below. Let me know, because you might have one of these filters and you'd want to know what I would go through to clean it out. So if you want to see that, let me know for sure. Something that I want to let you know of. You might not be aware of this yet, but Lisa and I have introduced the new KGTropicals premium cichlid pellets. We did it on Facebook. We announced it. We haven't really talked about it on YouTube because wanted to do kind of a soft launch through Facebook. If you want to know anything about these, head over to KGTropicals.com. They're right there. They're available for order right now. You order them today, we'll ship them out to you tomorrow. They'll get to you midweek, and your fish will absolutely love them. I don't want to do huge commercials for this. I just wanted to mention it because you might not know. In next week's video, we're going to talk about something that you see behind me, but I haven't talked about yet. Yes, we did convert this tank over to a sand substrate. I told you last week I'm removing the substrate and replacing it. Looked around, considered a lot of options, decided to go with sand. So in next week's video, I'm going to thoroughly clean out the tank, remove the old substrate. We're going to get this substrate ready, show you how I cleaned it before I put it in the tank, and then we'll install it in the tank, and it'll look like that at the end. But you're getting a little sneak peek of what it looks like now, but definitely go through all of the details about this, what it is, where I got it, how much I paid for it, and what I did to put it in the tank. So if you're not subscribed, you might want to make sure you do that so that you get a notification when that video goes up, because everybody asks all the time, how do you switch from one substrate to the other? Well, that video is going to answer that question. So thank you so much for watching this. I hope you've been able to get something out of this. I'm having fun with it so far. We've taken a bad situation where the fish are dying and the plants are dying and it's just one huge headache. We've turned it into a fun project. I'm enjoying it. I hope you are too. Thanks again for watching, and I look forward to talking to you again next week.